One day after my daughter's wedding, the restaurant manager called me. His voice had that tight, professional quality people use when they're trying not to sound nervous. "Mr. Brennan, this is Rick from the Grove. We need you to come in this morning, early, before we open." I was still in my bathrobe, standing in the kitchen with yesterday's champagne headache pulsing behind my eyes. Wedding hangovers are special. They combine exhaustion, relief, financial panic, and the vague sense that you've been performing for 200 people who were mostly interested in the open bar. "Is this about the final bill?" I asked. "Because I thought we settled everything Saturday night." "No, sir. It's not about money." He paused. "We rechecked the security footage. You need to see this yourself." The way he said yourself made my stomach drop. "What kind of footage?" "Please come alone," Rick said. "Don't tell your daughter anything, not yet." Then he hung up. I stood there holding the phone, looking at my reflection in the kitchen window. 58 years old, gray stubble, reading glasses on top of my head. The father of the bride, still wearing the complimentary slippers from the hotel where we'd hosted out-of-town guests. My wife Grace walked in, already dressed, carrying her laptop. She worked from home most days, managing accounts for a consulting firm. She took one look at my face. "What's wrong?" "That was the restaurant. They want me to come in." "For what?" "Security footage." Grace set down the laptop slowly. "Of what?" He didn't say, just that I needed to see it. Alone. We looked at each other. Grace had been my wife for 32 years. We'd raised 2 kids, buried her parents, survived my layoff in 2009, and refinanced the house twice. We didn't need a lot of words. "When?" she asked. "Now. I'm coming with you." He said alone. I don't care what he said. But I shook my head. If they specifically said alone, there's a reason. "Let me go. I'll call you right after." Grace's jaw tightened. She had this way of processing information where her whole face would go still, like she was running calculations in her head. Finally, she nodded. "If you're not back in an hour, I'm coming there." Deal. I got dressed fast. Jeans, old sweater, jacket. The Grove was only 15 minutes away. When I pulled into the parking lot at 9:30, the place looked strange in daylight. The decorations were still up, white ribbons on the lampposts. A banner over the entrance that said, "Congratulations, Emily and Jason." Emily, my daughter, 26 years old. Beautiful, smart, a marketing coordinator at a tech startup. She'd married Jason Whitmore, who worked in pharmaceutical sales and wore expensive watches. I'd never particularly liked Jason. That wasn't unusual. Fathers rarely like the men who marry their daughters. But with Jason, it went beyond protective instinct. There was something smooth about him. Too smooth. He laughed at his own jokes and always positioned himself in the center of group photos. During the engagement, he'd made a point of asking my advice about things he clearly already knew, like he was performing the role of respectful son-in-law. Still, Emily loved him. And I'd written the check for the wedding, $28,000. That was my contribution to their happiness. Now I was pulling into the lot where we'd celebrated that happiness 36 hours ago, and my hands were sweating. Rick met me at the back entrance. He was younger than me, maybe 40, with a wedding ring and tired eyes. He unlocked the door and led me through the empty restaurant. Our footsteps echoed. I could still smell the residue of Saturday night. Perfume, floor cleaner, something sweet and chemical. "I'm sorry about this," Rick said as we walked. "I really am." "Sorry about what?" "You'll see." He took me to the manager's office, which was barely bigger than a closet. There was a desk, a filing cabinet, and a monitor showing the security camera grid. 4 camera angles. Parking lot, front entrance, dining room, back hallway. Rick sat down and pulled up a saved file. "This is from Friday night. The rehearsal dinner." I remembered. We'd done a small family dinner the night before the wedding. 20 people. Emily, Jason, both sets of parents, the bridal party, a few close relatives. It was supposed to be casual and warm. Emily had given a toast thanking everyone. Jason's father had told an embarrassing story about Jason's college fraternity days. Everyone had laughed. Rick clicked play. The timestamp showed 9:47 p.m. The camera angle was the back hallway, near the restrooms and the office. The video was black and white, slightly grainy, but clear enough. I watched Emily walk into frame. She looked beautiful. She was wearing the blue dress she'd picked for the rehearsal. Her hair was up. She was smiling. Then Jason appeared behind her. They were alone in the hallway. I watched them talk. There was no audio, but their body language was animated. Jason kept gesturing with his hands. Emily kept glancing back toward the dining room. Then a third person entered the frame. I didn't recognize him at first. Older guy, maybe 65, in a polo shirt and khakis. He was carrying a leather folder. Emily shook his hand. Rick paused the video. "Do you know this man?" "No. Who is he?" "His name is Dennis Keller. He's a financial planner. We looked him up after we saw this." My throat felt tight. "Why was a financial planner at my daughter's rehearsal dinner?" Rick didn't answer. He just hit play. I watched Emily, Jason, and Dennis Keller talk for 90 seconds. At one point, Dennis opened the leather folder and showed them something. Papers. Documents. Emily leaned in to look. Jason pointed at something on the page. Then Emily pulled out her phone and took a picture of the document. My stomach turned over. Rick fast-forwarded. This continues for another 4 minutes. Then they all go back to the dining room separately. Dennis leaves 10 minutes later. We checked the guest list. He wasn't on it. So he just showed up? No. Jason texted him earlier that day. We pulled Jason's phone records from our Wi-Fi logs. Rick looked uncomfortable. We're required to monitor network activity for liability reasons. When we reviewed this footage yesterday for an insurance claim, we found these messages. Jason told Dennis to come at 9:45, right when everyone would be finishing dessert. I stared at the frozen image on the screen. My daughter, her fiancé, a stranger with a leather folder. What were they looking at? I asked. Rick hesitated. Then he opened a drawer and pulled out a printed screenshot. He handed it to me. It was a photo of the document Emily had photographed. The resolution wasn't perfect, but I could read enough. It was a financial planning worksheet. At the top, in bold letters, asset transfer strategy. Below that, a list, my name, my wife's name, our home address, estimated property value, retirement account balances, life insurance policies. I read it 3 times. My vision started to blur at the edges. What is this? Rick's voice was quiet. I think they were planning how to access your assets. That's not possible. Mr. Brennan. That's my daughter. She wouldn't. I'm just showing you what we found. I looked back at the monitor. Emily was still frozen mid-smile, leaning over the document. Jason's hand was on her shoulder. Dennis Keller's mouth was open, mid-sentence, explaining something. There's more, Rick said. He pulled up another video file. Same hallway, different timestamp. This one was from Saturday, the wedding day. 4:17 p.m. The ceremony had been at 3. The video showed my son, Tyler, 23 years old, still in college, finishing a 5th year because he'd changed his major twice. He was wearing his groomsman tux, looking uncomfortable the way Tyler always looked in formal clothes. Jason walked up to him in the hallway. They talked. Then Jason handed Tyler something, an envelope. Tyler opened it. Even in the grainy black and white, I could see his expression change. He looked at Jason. Jason said something. Tyler nodded slowly, then pocketed the envelope. Rick paused it. We don't know what was in the envelope, but 30 minutes later, Tyler was in the parking lot on his phone. We have him on exterior cameras. He made 3 calls. Each one lasted less than a minute. Who did he call? We don't know. But after the 3rd call, he got in his car and drove away. He missed the reception. That was true. Tyler had vanished during cocktail hour. When I'd asked Emily about it later, she'd said he wasn't feeling well. Food poisoning, maybe. He'd texted his apologies. I'd believed her. Now I was watching my son take an envelope from my son-in-law and disappear. "Mr. Brennan," Rick said carefully, "I don't know what's happening in your family, but this looked wrong. We have a legal obligation to report certain activities. Financial exploitation of elderly family members is one of them." "I'm not elderly. You're 58. Legally in some contexts." "What did you do with this footage?" Rick shifted in his chair. "Nothing yet. I wanted you to see it first, but I have to file a report by tomorrow. It's company policy." My hands were shaking. I set them flat on the desk. "Can I get copies of these videos?" "I can't officially give them to you, but if you had a USB drive, and if you knew how to export files from this system, and if I happened to leave you alone in this office for 5 minutes to go check the thermostat in the kitchen." He trailed off meaningfully. I looked at him. Rick stared back. Then he stood up, handed me a blank USB drive from the desk drawer, and walked out. I sat there for 10 seconds. Then I started copying files. It took 4 minutes to export everything: the rehearsal dinner footage, the wedding day footage, the Wi-Fi log screenshots, the photo of the asset transfer document. When Rick came back, I was standing by the door, the USB drive in my pocket. "Thank you," I said. "I didn't do anything." He walked me to the exit. "Mr. Brennan, I've worked here 9 years. I've seen a lot of families come through. Most of them are happy. Some of them are pretending. But I've never seen anything like this." "Like what?" "That document, the timing, the secrecy." He looked at me. "Your daughter and her husband weren't drunk. They weren't fighting. They were coordinating." I didn't answer. I walked to my truck, got in, and sat there with the engine off. The banner was still hanging over the entrance. "Congratulations, Emily and Jason." I pulled out my phone and called Grace. She answered on the first ring. "What happened?" "I'm coming home," I said. "We need to talk." I drove home 20 miles over the speed limit. My mind was racing, trying to process what I'd seen, trying to find an innocent explanation. Maybe Emily was asking Dennis Keller for legitimate financial advice. Maybe she wanted to understand estate planning before her own future. But then why do it secretly at the rehearsal dinner? Why not introduce him to me? And what about Tyler? What was in that envelope? When I pulled into our driveway, Grace was standing at the front door. She'd been watching for me. I got out and walked straight to her, and she took one look at my face. "Inside," she said. We went to the kitchen. I pulled out my laptop, plugged in the USB drive, and showed her everything. Grace watched in silence. The rehearsal dinner footage, the wedding day footage, the asset transfer document. She didn't interrupt. She didn't gasp or cry. She just watched with that same still expression. When it was over, she sat back. "How long have you known something was wrong?" I asked. Grace blinked. "What?" "You didn't look surprised." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "There have been small things I didn't want to say because I thought I was being paranoid." "Like what?" "Emily borrowed $3,000 from me in August. She said it was for the wedding, for alterations and flowers. But Jason makes good money. And I saw her Venmo history by accident when she showed me something on her phone. She'd paid someone named DK Financial $2,500 2 days after I gave her the money." I felt cold. "DK? Dennis Keller?" Grace nodded. "And Tyler came to me in September. He needed help with tuition. Said he'd lost his scholarship because of a grade issue. I gave him $1,500. But when I called the school to ask about payment plans, they said his tuition was already covered. Someone had paid it in full in July." "Who?" "They wouldn't tell me. Privacy laws. But Tyler didn't pay it. And he still took my money." I stared at her. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I thought I was wrong. I thought maybe Emily had used the money for something else. I thought maybe Tyler was embarrassed. I thought—" She stopped. "I thought it was normal for kids to lie about small things. I didn't think it was part of something bigger." We sat there looking at each other. "They think we're easy marks," Grace said finally. They think we're naive. Are we? We used to be. She closed the laptop. Not anymore. I pulled out my phone. I had 17 unread texts. Most were from family members thanking us for the wedding. 3 were from Emily. The first one, sent last night. Dad, thank you again for everything. Best day of my life. I love you. The second one, sent this morning. Hope you're recovering from the weekend. Let's do brunch next week. The third one, sent 20 minutes ago. Are you okay? You're not answering. Call me. I showed Grace. She looked at the screen, then at me. Don't answer yet. Why not? Because right now they think everything is fine. They think the wedding went perfectly and we're none the wiser. If we tip them off, they'll adjust. Adjust to what? Grace leaned forward. Whatever they're planning, it's not finished. They're waiting for something to happen to us. My hands clenched. You think they'd hurt us? I think they'd let us get hurt. There's a difference. She stood up. We need to know what else they've done, what else they're planning. And we need to do it quietly. How? Grace walked to the window and looked out at the street. They think you're predictable. That's why this is working. You're the nice dad. The guy who writes the checks and doesn't ask questions. The guy who wants his kids to be happy. I am that guy. I know, but they're counting on it. She turned back to me. So stop being that guy. And be what? Someone they didn't plan for. While you're here, hit the hype button, don't forget to subscribe and support this channel with a like, and tell us below, have you ever faced something like this? I didn't call Emily back that day, or the next. By Wednesday, she'd sent 12 texts. They started friendly and concerned, then shifted to confused, then annoyed. By Thursday morning, she called. I let it go to voicemail. Her message, Dad, seriously, what's going on? Are you mad at me? Did I do something wrong at the wedding? Please, just call me back. Grace listened to the voicemail on speaker. She sounds genuine. She probably believes she is, I said. We were sitting at the kitchen table with printed copies of everything from the USB drive. Grace had organized the documents into a timeline. She'd always been better with details than me. Her consulting work involved tracking billing cycles, flagging discrepancies, finding patterns in numbers. Now she was doing the same thing with our own family. Look at this, she said, pointing to the financial planning worksheet. The estimated values. Your retirement account, they have it listed as $412,000. That's about right. No, it's not. You rolled over your 401k from Midwest Electric into an IRA in 2019. The balance is closer to $440,000. I frowned. How would they know the wrong number? Because they're using old information. Your last statement from Midwest was in 2019, and the balance then was $412. They must have seen it somehow. Where would they see an old financial statement? Grace tapped the paper. Our file cabinet. Downstairs. We keep everything. You think Emily went through our files? I think someone did. Grace pulled out her phone and checked the calendar. Emily house sat for us last November. We went to your brother's wedding in Colorado. She had the keys for 4 days. I remembered. We'd come home to a clean house, fresh flowers on the counter, and a thank you note from Emily saying she'd enjoyed the quiet time to catch up on work. She didn't just house sit, Grace said quietly. She inventoried. My stomach turned. What else did she find? Grace opened another document. The life insurance policy. That's correct. But look at this note in the margin. She pointed to handwritten text on the scanned document. Beneficiaries. Spouse primary, children secondary. That's standard, I said. Right. But if something happens to both of us simultaneously, the full benefit goes to the kids, split evenly. Emily and Tyler each get $125,000. So? So they're thinking about what happens if we both die. Grace met my eyes. Not just you. Both of us. The room felt very cold. People plan for that, I said. It's normal estate planning. Normal estate planning doesn't involve secret meetings with financial planners at your wedding rehearsal. Grace pulled up the video on her laptop. Look at Dennis Keller's face. He's not giving casual advice. He's presenting a strategy. I watched the footage again. This time I paid attention to Dennis Keller's body language. He was pointing at specific sections of the document. At one point, he made a gesture like he was drawing a timeline in the air. Emily and Jason both nodded. We need to find out more about Keller, I said. Grace was already typing. Dennis Keller, financial planner, Columbus area. She pulled up his website. Professional headshot, friendly bio, credentials, client testimonials, a page titled Services that listed retirement planning, estate management, and wealth preservation. Then Grace clicked on a buried link at the bottom. Additional consulting. The page that loaded was sparse, just 2 paragraphs and a contact form. For clients facing complex family situations requiring discretion and strategic asset coordination, we offer specialized planning services. These engagements are handled confidentially and are tailored to unique circumstances. Contact us directly to discuss your needs. Grace read it aloud. Strategic asset coordination. That's a nice way of saying something that probably isn't nice. I pulled out my phone. I'm calling him. No. Why not? Because if you call him directly, he'll tell Emily and Jason. We need to approach this differently. She thought for a moment. What if we hire him? Hire the guy who's helping them steal from us? Exactly. We pose as potential clients. We ask about estate planning. We see what he tells us. I stared at her. You're serious. Completely. Grace was already drafting an email from a fake account she'd created. She used a variation of her maiden name and a burner email address. The message was simple. Referred by a colleague. Need advice on family estate transition. Possible complications with adult children. Available for consultation this week. She hit send. 20 minutes later, Dennis Keller replied. Happy to help. I have availability tomorrow at 2 p.m. My office is in Westlake. Let me know if that works. Grace showed me the email. We're meeting him tomorrow. Both of us? No, just me. If he's working with Emily and Jason, he might recognize you. He's never met me. He might have seen photos. Emily has pictures all over her apartment. Wedding photos, family photos. Grace closed the laptop. I'll go as a widow. Concerned about protecting assets from stepchildren. That's a common scenario. You're going to lie to him. He's lying to us. It's only fair. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Emily as a kid. She'd been shy in elementary school, the kind of child who clung to my leg at birthday parties. In middle school, she'd gone through a phase where she wanted to be a veterinarian. She'd volunteered at the animal shelter every weekend, coming home smelling like wet dog and antiseptic. In high school, she'd changed. Not dramatically, just a slow shift. She'd started caring more about how things looked, the right clothes, the right friends, the right college. She'd gotten into Ohio State and majored in marketing. She'd joined a sorority. When she graduated, she'd moved to Columbus and gotten the job at the tech startup. She'd dated a few guys, none of them serious. Then she'd met Jason. She'd brought him home for Thanksgiving 2 years ago. He'd been charming and polite, complimenting Grace's cooking, asking me about my work. He'd worn a sport coat to dinner. Afterward, Emily had pulled me aside and said, I really like him, Dad. I think he's the one. I'd said, That's great, sweetheart. I'm happy for you. And I had been. Mostly. There was something about Jason that felt rehearsed, but I'd chalked it up to nervousness. Meeting the parents is stressful. We spent the weekend building our case. Grace created a timeline of every suspicious incident, every charge to our credit card, every lie Emily told, every manipulation. She organized it into a document with dates, evidence, and cross-references. I focused on Dennis Keller. I researched his business, his credentials, his history. What I found was interesting. Dennis Keller had been a financial planner for 30 years. For most of that time, he'd been legitimate. Traditional retirement planning, investment management, estate services. Then, 8 years ago, something changed. He moved offices, rebranded his business, started advertising discretionary family services and strategic asset coordination. His client base shifted from retirees to their adult children. I found 3 lawsuits, all settled out of court. All involved elderly parents whose children had gained control of their assets through power of attorney transfers. The parents claimed they'd been coerced. The children claimed the parents were incompetent. Dennis Keller was named in 2 of the lawsuits as a consultant who'd helped facilitate the transfers. None of the lawsuits went to trial. All 3 families accepted settlements with non-disclosure agreements. He's done this before, I told Grace, multiple times, and he's gotten away with it because the families don't want public trials. We're not settling, Grace said, and we're not signing an NDA. I also found something else. An interview Dennis Keller did with a local business magazine 5 years ago. He was talking about succession planning and intergenerational wealth transfer. One quote stood out. "The challenge in modern estate planning isn't just about taxes or legal structures. It's about managing family dynamics when parents and adult children have conflicting timelines. Sometimes the most loving thing a parent can do is recognize when they're no longer the best steward of family assets." Reading between the lines, sometimes parents should give up control before they die. Grace printed the interview. This is his philosophy. He doesn't see himself as helping people steal. He sees himself as accelerating inevitable transfers. That's still theft. To us, yes. To him, it's progress. On Monday, I got a call from our bank. "Mr. Brennan, this is Linda from Fraud Prevention. We've flagged some unusual activity on your account." My pulse jumped. "What kind of activity?" "Someone attempted to add an authorized user to your checking account this morning. The request came through our online portal using your login credentials." I didn't make that request. That's what we suspected. The IP address was from Columbus. You're in Cleveland, correct? Yes. We blocked the request and reset your password, but I wanted to let you know someone has your login information. Can you tell me who tried to add themselves to the account? Linda hesitated. A Jason Whitmore. Is that name familiar? Yes. He's my son-in-law. I see. Well, he's been locked out now, but you should consider additional security measures, and you may want to file a police report. I thanked her and hung up. Grace was standing in the doorway. Jason tried to hack our bank account, I said. When? This morning. How did he get your login? I don't know. Maybe Emily got it when she house sat. Maybe they have some kind of keylogger software. Maybe they just guessed. Grace pulled out her phone. I'm calling Martin Reeves. This is criminal now. We're filing charges. Wait. Why? Because if we file charges now, they'll know we're on to them. They'll stop. They'll cover their tracks. We won't get the full picture of what they're planning. So, what do? We let them think it worked. We don't change the password. We set up alerts so we know every time someone logs in, but we don't lock them out. Grace stared at me. You want them to have access to our bank account? I want to know what they do with it, what they look at, what they try to take. Every action they make is more evidence. That's risky. It's necessary. If we want to destroy them completely, we need documentation of everything they try to do. Grace thought about it, then nodded. Okay, but we move most of the money out first. Leave just enough to look normal. We opened new accounts at a different bank. We transferred 90% of our savings, leaving only the minimum balance required to avoid fees. Then we set up alerts for every transaction, every login, every change to the account. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Alert. Login from Columbus, Ohio. Jason was back in the account. I pulled up the bank's activity log on my laptop. Jason had logged in at 11:42 a.m. He'd viewed our account balance, checked transaction history for the last 6 months, downloaded statements. "He's gathering information," Grace said, "building a profile of our finances. Let him. The more he looks, the more he incriminates himself." Over the next 3 days, Jason logged in 7 more times. He checked our balance repeatedly. He reviewed our automatic payments. He looked at transfer history. Then, on Thursday, he tried to initiate a transfer. The alert came at 2:18 p.m. Transfer request, $15,000 from checking to external account. The external account belonged to Emily. Grace and I watched the notification together. "He's stealing from us," Grace said quietly. "Not yet. The bank has to approve large transfers. They'll call us before processing it." The phone rang 5 minutes later. "Mr. Brennan, this is Todd from your bank. We have a transfer request for $15,000 to an external account. Can you confirm you authorized this?" "No, I didn't authorize it." "I see. We're going to block the transfer and flag this account for fraud. Do you know who might have made this request?" "Yes. My son-in-law, Jason Whitmore. The same person who tried to add himself as an authorized user last week?" "Yes." Todd's voice became very professional. "Mr. Brennan, I'm required to inform you that this pattern of behavior constitutes attempted theft. We're going to document this incident and recommend you contact law enforcement." "I will. Thank you." I hung up. Grace had already pulled up her contact for Martin Reeves. "Now?" she asked. "Now." We met with Martin Reeves that afternoon. He reviewed everything: the credit card charges, the login attempts, the transfer request, the security footage from the rehearsal dinner, Tyler's testimony about Emily's journal and Dennis Keller's plan. Martin was a careful man, mid-60s, gray hair, reading glasses on a chain. He'd been practicing law for 40 years. He'd seen a lot, but this made him angry. "This is one of the most comprehensive financial exploitation schemes I've encountered," he said. "And what makes it worse is its family. They know exactly how to manipulate you." "Can we stop them?" I asked. "Stop them? Yes. Prosecute them? That's harder." Martin pulled out a legal pad. "Here's the situation. The credit card charges are fraud. The bank login attempts are fraud. The transfer request is attempted theft. But to press criminal charges, you'll need to convince a prosecutor to take the case. And prosecutors are reluctant to get involved in family disputes." "This isn't a dispute," Grace said. "It's a crime." "I agree. But legally, there's gray area. Emily had access to your credit card for years. A defense attorney could argue she reasonably believed she had permission to use it. Jason could claim he was helping you manage your finances. They'll frame everything as misunderstanding, not malice." "What about Dennis Keller?" I asked. "He's protected by attorney-client privilege. Unless Emily and Jason testify against him, we can't prove he advised them to commit crimes. He'll claim he gave legal advice about estate planning, nothing more." "So they get away with it?" "I didn't say that. I said criminal prosecution is difficult. Civil court is different." Martin made notes. "You can sue for the money they took. You can sue for emotional distress. You can publicize their behavior. You can make their lives very, very difficult." "I want more than difficult," I said. "I want them destroyed." Martin looked at me over his glasses. "Destroyed is expensive, and it takes time. Are you prepared for that?" "Yes." "Are you prepared to lose your daughter permanently?" "I've already lost her. She just doesn't know it yet." Martin nodded. "Then here's what we do. We file a civil lawsuit for fraud, theft, and conspiracy. We name Emily, Jason, and Dennis Keller as defendants. We request damages, penalties, and legal fees. We make the lawsuit public record, and we send copies to everyone they know." "Everyone?" Grace asked. "Everyone. Family, friends, employers, professional contacts. We make sure the whole world knows what they tried to do." "That's ruthless," I said. "That's justice. If you want them destroyed, we destroy their reputation first. their careers second, their finances third. We make it impossible for them to move forward without answering for what they've done. Grace looked at me. Are we really doing this? I thought about Emily as a child, shy, sweet, clinging to my leg at birthday parties. I thought about all the money I'd spent on her education, her car, her apartment, her wedding. I thought about how she'd looked at me in the hospital and lied right to my face. Yes, I said, we're doing this. Martin started drafting the lawsuit that night. Meanwhile, Jason made another move. Friday morning, I got a call from Tyler. Dad, something weird just happened. What? A guy came to my house, said he was from the county health department, said someone filed a concern about your welfare. He asked me questions about whether you're taking care of yourself, whether you seem confused, whether you've had any falls or accidents. What did you tell him? I said you're fine. I said I just saw you and you seemed completely normal. He asked if I was sure. He said sometimes families don't notice gradual decline. I said I was sure. Did he say who filed the concern? No. But Dad, I think it was Emily. Who else would do that? Did you get the guy's name? He gave me a business card. Roger Pellini, Adult Protective Services. I wrote it down. Anything else? He asked if I thought you were being manipulated by anyone, like if someone was controlling your decisions or isolating you from family. I said no. He said to call him if I ever had concerns. Tyler, that wasn't a wellness check. That was reconnaissance. For what? For their guardianship petition. They're building a case that we're incompetent. They're getting statements from family members, interviewing neighbors, creating a paper trail. What do I do? Nothing. You already did the right thing. Just don't talk to that guy again, and don't tell Emily you talked to me. Okay. Dad? Yeah? I'm scared. This is really happening, isn't it? Yes, but we're going to stop it. I hung up and immediately called Martin Reeves. They just sent Adult Protective Services to interview Tyler. Martin swore. They're moving fast. That means they're close to filing their petition. How close? Could be days, maybe a week. We need to file our lawsuit first. Beat them to the punch. How long until our lawsuit is ready? I can have it done by Monday, but I need one more thing from you. What? A cognitive evaluation, from a doctor, proving you're mentally competent. If we file the lawsuit and they counterclaim that you're incompetent and being manipulated by Grace, we need medical documentation that you're fine. Where do I get that? I have a colleague, neuropsychologist. She does evaluations for cases like this. I'll set up an appointment for tomorrow. Tomorrow's Saturday. She owes me a favor. I spent Saturday morning in a medical office taking tests, memory recall, spatial reasoning, problem solving. The neuropsychologist, Dr. Patricia Hayes, was in her 50s with kind eyes and no-nonsense manner. You're scoring in the 95th percentile for your age group, she said after 2 hours. You have no signs of cognitive impairment whatsoever. Can you put that in writing? I'll have a full report ready by Monday morning. Grace got evaluated too. Same result, no impairment, perfect cognitive function. Armed with the evaluations, Martin filed the lawsuit Monday at noon. The defendants were Emily Whitmore, Jason Whitmore, and Dennis Keller. The claims were fraud, theft, conspiracy to commit elder abuse, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The damages requested were $150,000 plus legal fees. Martin sent copies to the defendants via certified mail. Then he sent copies to Jason's employer, Emily's employer, and Dennis Keller's professional licensing board. He also sent a copy to the local newspaper. By Tuesday morning, the story was everywhere. Local couple sues daughter and son-in-law for elder abuse. The article didn't name Emily and Jason, but it named me and Grace, and it described the allegations in detail: the credit card fraud, the bank hacking, the guardianship plot, the financial planner who helped orchestrate it all. My phone started ringing at 7 a.m. Friends, relatives, people I hadn't talked to in years. Everyone wanted to know if it was true. I didn't answer. I let it ring. By Wednesday, Emily's employer called her in for a meeting. I found out later through Tyler that they'd put her on administrative leave pending an investigation. Marketing coordinators at tech companies can't have active fraud lawsuits hanging over them. It's bad for the brand. Jason's pharmaceutical company did the same. Sales representatives need to be trustworthy. Attempted theft from your in-laws doesn't inspire trust. Dennis Keller got a visit from the state licensing board. They couldn't revoke his license based on allegations alone, but they could investigate. And an investigation meant audits, interviews, and public scrutiny. By Thursday, Emily and Jason hired a lawyer. Their lawyer sent Martin a letter. It claimed we were lying. It claimed Emily and Jason had never tried to steal from us. It claimed we were suffering from paranoid delusions, and Emily was the real victim, a devoted daughter being attacked by her unstable parents. The letter threatened to countersue for defamation. Martin laughed when he read it. "They're panicking," he said. "This letter is all bluster. They don't have a case." "Are you sure?" "Positive. We have evidence. They have excuses. Evidence beats excuses every time." But the letter did one thing successfully. It got Emily sympathy. Friends who read the lawsuit started calling her. Some believed us, but others believed Emily's version. She was the young newlywed being attacked by her cruel parents. She was the victim of a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. She was being punished for asking for help. Social media picked up the story. Not the specifics, but the general narrative. Entitled parents sue their own child. Boomers refuse to help millennials. Generational warfare. Some people sided with us. Most sided with Emily. By Friday, I had strangers sending me hate messages online. "You're disgusting. Your daughter deserves better. I hope you die alone." We stopped reading them, but the pressure was working. By Saturday, Emily sent me a text. "Dad, please, let's talk. We can fix this. Don't let lawyers destroy our family." I showed Grace. "She's trying to manipulate you again," Grace said. "I know. Are you going to respond?" I thought about it. Then I replied, "We have nothing to talk about. See you in court." Emily didn't respond, but Jason did. He sent a different kind of message. A photo. It was a picture of our house, taken from across the street, at night. The lights were on inside. You could see our silhouettes through the living room window. No words, just the photo. Grace saw it and went white. "He's watching us." I called the police immediately. The officer who came to take the report was professional, but skeptical. "Did he threaten you in any way?" "He sent us a photo of our house at night. That's a threat." "Did he say he was going to hurt you?" "No. But the implication is clear." "Sir, unless there's an explicit threat, there's not much we can do. You're in a lawsuit with this person. Emotions are high. He took a photo of a house from a public street. That's not illegal." "It's intimidation." "Maybe, but it's not criminal intimidation. If he contacts you again, or if he trespasses on your property, call us immediately. Until then, I recommend documenting everything and considering a restraining order." The officer left. Grace and I checked all the doors and windows. I activated the security cameras. We didn't sleep well that night. Sunday morning, Jason escalated. He posted on social media a long essay about how he and Emily were victims of elder abuse themselves, how I was a controlling father who'd manipulated Emily her whole life, how Grace was complicit, how we were trying to destroy Emily's marriage out of spite. The post included selective screenshots of text messages, me refusing to answer Emily's calls, me threatening to cut her off, me accusing her of theft. Without context, I looked like a monster. The post went viral. 10,000 shares by noon. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. "We need to respond," Grace said. "We need to tell our side." "No," Martin said when we called him. "That's what they want. They want you to engage publicly. They want a messy fight. Don't give it to them. The court case will tell the truth." When? The preliminary hearing is in 3 weeks. We'll present evidence. The judge will see what really happened. Until then, stay silent. 3 weeks felt like forever. But we stayed silent. And while we stayed silent, Jason kept going. He showed up at our house Tuesday evening, knocked on the door. I watched him through the security camera. "Mr. Brennan, I know you're in there. We need to talk. Man to man." I didn't answer. He knocked again. "I'm not leaving until you talk to me." I called the police. They came. They asked Jason to leave. He did, but not before shouting at our front door. "You're going to regret this, both of you. You're destroying your daughter's life." Wednesday, Emily tried a different approach. She showed up at Grace's work, waited in the parking lot. When Grace came out at the end of the day, Emily was standing by her car. "Mom, please, just listen to me." Grace didn't stop walking. She unlocked her car and got in. Emily knocked on the window. "Mom, I'm begging you, don't do this. Drop the lawsuit. We can work this out." Grace started the car. Emily's face changed. The desperation turned to rage. "Fine. You want to be like this? Fine. But don't expect me to forgive you. Ever." Grace drove away. She called me from the car, her voice shaking. She was waiting for me. She ambushed me. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Just shaken." Grace took a breath. "Thomas, we need to end this soon. I don't know how much longer I can take this. 3 more weeks, then the hearing, then it's over." "Is it? Because it feels like this is never going to end." That night, lying in bed, Grace asked me something she'd never asked before. "Do you regret it, filing the lawsuit?" "No. Even with everything that's happened, the threats, the harassment, the public shaming, none of that changes what they did. They tried to steal from us. They tried to have us declared incompetent. They deserve to face consequences. But at what cost? Whatever it takes." Grace was quiet. Then, "What if we can't win?" "We'll win." "How do you know?" "Because we have the truth. And the truth always wins." Grace didn't say anything. But I could tell she didn't believe me. Maybe I didn't believe me either. But I couldn't stop now. We'd come too far.